Out of landmark talks with the government that began last week in Kabul as part of a deal between the militant group and Washington. These face-to-face talks are meant to facilitate the freeing of hundreds of prisoners held by both sides. For more details, here's Ambarasan Nitirajan.
A Taliban spokesman said they would no longer participate in what he described as fruitless discussions with the Afghan government. He blamed the administration of President Ashraf Ghani for delaying the prisoner release under one pretext or another. But a government negotiator said the Taliban were unreasonably demanding the release of 15 commanders involved in what he called big attacks. He added, "We cannot release the killers of our people."
State governors and officials in America have warned against any rapid relaxation of restrictions on people's lives, as total coronavirus fatalities across the country jumped to nearly 11,000. More than 1,000 people died in 24 hours. In the second worst affected state, New Jersey, the governor said there would be a renewed surge if social distancing were relaxed. News from the BBC. South Korean health officials say the number of new virus infections has dropped below 50 for the second time in 2 days, but warn that individuals must remain vigilant or the country could see infections spread again. The South Korean Health Ministry is considering a plan to fit electronic wristbands to all people who've been ordered to undergo a 14-day quarantine to ensure they do not venture outside. The Indian government says it will allow some exports of the anti-malarial drug hydroxychloroquine after President Trump urged Delhi to release supplies of the drugs seen as a possible treatment for COVID-19. The government had earlier put a hold on exports as well as paracetamol, saying it had to meet its internal demand. Yogita Limayu reports from Mumbai.
The government here has said it will continue to sell hydroxychloroquine in appropriate quantities to countries worst affected by the pandemic and to neighbouring nations which depend on India for the supply of the drug and other medicines. India says the move is a humanitarian one, seeking to quell speculation that it came under pressure from the US to lift the ban on exports. 2 days ago, President Trump had said he'd asked Prime Minister Narendra Modi to release the hold India had put on a US order of hydroxychloroquine, and on Monday night he warned there would be retaliation if that didn't happen.
The president of the Philippines, Rodrigo Duterte, has approved a quarantine extension on the country's main island, Luzon, to run until April 30th. The extended lockdown will affect more than half the population. And almost half of Roman Catholic priests in the Irish capital, Dublin, have had to withdraw from public life because of the efforts to control the spread of the virus. Among the city's 400 or so priests, the average age is around 70. And that's the BBC News.
Thank you very much. You're listening to the newsroom from the BBC World Service with Oliver Conway. Boris faces fight for life. The dramatic headline on a couple of the British newspapers this morning after the Prime Minister was last night moved to intensive care. Mr Johnson was taken to hospital on Sunday night for what the government described as routine tests. He'd been suffering persistent symptoms of COVID-19 for 10 days. He was given oxygen for breathing difficulties, but his condition worsened and he was moved into an